Hello everybody. Starting slightly early today. I did schedule this for 8:30 p.m. my time, but 15 minutes I am eager to get started. Today we're going to do something different. We're not following along with the astrology app, even though that still needs some new features built, but I thought I would mix up a little bit and work on something a little bit unique. So if you take a look here, we have this little app. I called it Node Linking. I made this a little while ago, but I haven't actually created a stream or anything or video on how I actually did it. At the end of this, the code will be available. You see today I'm also wearing my September hat. I think this was from Revenue Cat. Really nice of them to send that to me. So anyway, let's get into this. So this is how it works. You click this new button, the new node button, and it gives you a node. And in this case, it's got two, I guess we can call it more like this is probably a panel than a node. Don't know. We can change the settings a little bit later to add more of these dots. So if you click and drag, you can kind of like, you see it creates this chain. If we create another node, bring this across into here too, and then we can kind of click and drag and then link them together. Now this is all built using SwiftUI, and we can like move these around the screen and reposition them and things like that. If I click on this one, I can hook it up to there, and we've got them crossed over like that. I think they'll just always remain crossed over. We can add more nodes, and we can actually link more from, I think it has to be from, you can link them to themselves, as you can see, and then we can link them across like that, and I think you can do multiple. Yeah. So I believe you can also establish multiple links to the same node. So these are things that you would probably want to program in to like disallow that from happening. If there's already a link, if there's already a connection that's made, don't allow another one to be made. But we're not going to get through that today. What we're going to do is just create this board, which is essentially these panels, which have sockets for where you can connect to different cables and stuff. And this is all done with SwiftUI. It's going to be fun. How am I doing? I am pretty good today, actually. I've had, 2 or 3 weeks off because of like holidays and Christmas and stuff, but getting back into it, I'm really excited for this particular project, actually. So I've created a new Xcode project. I'm going to just shut this down now. And what we've got is just a blank project, which is like the multi-platform template that they give you. So this should work on both iOS and macOS. I wonder if we can do my Mac here, because that app that I just showed you then was like a Mac version of it, and I feel like it's a bit easier and faster to run than having to like boot up the simulator all the time. So let's see what we get. Let's just go open anyway. Sure. Okay, and here's our little view over here. Excellent. So when do we get started? So the way this works is we have a couple of different views. So we've got we'll call it a node. I'm going to call it a panel. We'll call it a panel, which has sockets on it. So kind of similar to what you see with like the telephone exchange thing, or back in the old days, or synthesize, like the big synthesizers and stuff. We can just like plug and unplug cables and switch them around. So there's 2 views there. So they've got the sockets, which are embedded within the panels. And then we have another view, which is the drawing path, like the cables that go between them. So they're going to sit on top. So this is all going to be within like a Z stack, right? And then we also, like the path would have to follow a bit of a curve. We can get a little bit trickier later and then just have it so that when you shake them, the cables wobble, which would be kind of cool. I strongly choose between 2 career, Java backend dev or iOS native dev. What is your take on that? Ready to hear advice. What do you think of the current market for iOS devs? Well, I can only speak about iOS devs. I can't really talk to you about Java backend. I think both are kind of important. I'd say that, yeah, I can see why you'd be sort of torn between the two, but the thing is they're completely different as well in what you do. So it's just like saying I can't decide between front end or back end dev. They're completely different career paths, really. You can do like a bit of both. I guess if you're a back end dev, you're probably going to be expected to know a little bit of front end, and then the other way around as well. It's just so that you can get communication between the two back end and front end, so that can be nice and clear when you work in a company. I think, I don't know, have you got experience with both? Have you done both? Because I would pick whichever one I enjoy doing the most. I wouldn't worry about the market or even pay, because eventually if you get stuck in one of those careers, like you might be there for 10 years or more, right? So you want to pick one that you actually enjoy. That's probably the best advice I'd give you. The one that you have the most fun with, that would be the one to go for. Okay, so I think I'm going to start with, we've got some model objects as well. We've got some model objects a part of this project which will represent sort of the data structure, and this will have a data structure to it, because there's no point being able to like link up these different panels without being able to like inspect the data or traverse it in order to be able to do something with it, right? So all we're doing today is just like UI code, but there is some supporting model objects. So each, let's see what we have here. So each, I guess each main view, each window of our app will have a model which looks after all the nodes, all the sockets, all the panels. And then there's like this, I guess you could call it sort of like a tree structure almost, where the way everything all connects together. And even the wires will have a model object for them. Let's just get into it. Let's just get started. So let's begin with, it's the easiest thing to start with here for us to get drawing. Yeah, so probably the model, right? That'd be the most important thing to start with. So let's start down here. So I'm going to create a new, we'll go with observable objects for this because that's what I'm most familiar with still. So we'll go class, let's call it, instead of node model, which is in my old code, we'll call it panel. I think that makes much more sense. And yeah, as we go through this, you can just add questions and stuff into chat. It could be anything iOS related, Mac, career stuff, programming questions, anything like that. And we're just hanging out really. And I'm trying to doing some educational stuff at the same time so that anyone who's not on stream and can't interact get something out of watching it later too. Really like iOS, but in my country, there are only 4 companies doing iOS native, and in the same time, there isn't much iOS developers compared to a lot of Java jobs. Okay. Well, I mean, are you happy to work remote? Do you have to do you have to work for companies in your country? So I stream on YouTube and I do consulting work as my main job, and I work with companies all over the world. So, and I'm in Melbourne, in Australia. Do I take the risk and go with iOS development? I mean, that's what I did. I don't know your exact situations, your living situations. It can be more expensive in some cases too, because if you're going to work for yourself, you have to buy a Mac. You probably got one, but you might need to upgrade or something. Those are thousands of dollars. So really depends. You can always do one and switch later as well. There's no harm in that. If you know both front end and back end, like you could do both. So I started learning Vapor some years ago so I could do some back end work for my apps, because I wasn't earning enough to be able to pay someone else to do it for me, so I had to learn how to do it. We want to use published here because I know this is older code. We're not, we haven't got we can probably do a conversion a little bit later to the app model stuff or whatever it is we've got going on. But we're going to go with published at the moment. And here we have panels, which will be a panel, an array of them. So that is the item that holds the sockets. And then another publish, because anytime we add a new panel or we move its position, we need to update those values. So that's why we have this publish value here. And we go wires, let's call them cables. And this will be a cable. Okay. Right, so what we can do now is create a, call it a panel, make it identifiable, and then we'll create our cable, make that identifiable as well, because we're going to be looping over these, right, in order to draw them. And we need an ID because it's identifiable, so we're just going to go with regular UID. And the reason why I'm using classes here is because we're going to be updating these. We're not going to be recreating them. And it's okay in this sense because they're only going to be initialized once, and then we're going to update the values on them. If we're using structs, we couldn't really use the UUID because they would just get recreated with a new UUID. So we're going to have a position value for the panel, which is a CG point. We don't care about like the frame, like the size of it, that doesn't matter. And we're going to start with 0. And when they initialize, they'll just like be at the top left position of the window, but we can adjust this so that they can show up in the center of the screen or something like that later, which is fine. And then we go sockets, and a socket is a new type, new data type we need to create. And in this case, what we can do is we can initialize it with a number of sockets already. So the way I've set up this code is so that, or this particular project, is that we can add and remove any number of sockets that we like to each panel. So that makes it super flexible, right? So you're not just gonna, like the example I showed at the start, which just had, each panel just had 2 sockets. Maybe you wanna have more. And then we can stretch and resize change the size of the panel depending on how many sockets there are. It's gonna be very hard to find a junior remote iOS jobs outside of my country. I have a Mac and one iPhone 14 Pro and Apple Watch, so no problem in terms of hardware. Yeah, I don't know if it's really that difficult. Maybe you do the Java backend work and then do iOS on the side, you know, in your evenings and weekends and stuff, and then see if you can get yourself an app that can support you, and then something you can do full time. I'm still struggling to do that myself. I would love to not have clients anymore. I've been doing this for years, and it's difficult to create a project, a product that people want to pay for. So each cable will have well, we need the ID. Okay. And then we needed like a start position and an end position, because these are the cables that go between sockets, and they can go from the same socket back to the same socket, which is weird, but that's how the code works. Or you go from socket number 1 in panel 1 to socket number 1 in panel 2. So we need like a start and end point. And what we can do then is, if we know what those sockets are at the start and end point, we can get the socket's position, and then we can draw the wire from one to the other. You'll see what I mean a little bit later. So start socket, and then we say end socket. Yeah. So we keep track of these values, and this is again a class as well. And then I guess we could do an initializer. We're gonna wait for that, but we don't need to do that yet. See how we go. So we've got a cable set up. Now we need to create a socket for these cables to connect to, which again is identifiable. I believe we need to do this. Position, and these will start at 0 as well. These will be updated by the UI. So at the moment, the socket doesn't know how many relatives there are in a particular panel, so we can't like initialize its position because of that. So yeah, we do need an initializer down here. So what we can do is just have Xcode create one for us. I'm just going to delete that since it's already there. And remove that. And I think that is it. That looks good to me. Yeah, so here's the thing. The cables don't exist. In order for a cable to exist, it must have a start and end socket. Okay? You can't have like the cable just hanging in the UI. At some point, the code could be updated for that to be a thing, where you could just like unplug one of the cables and it could just hang. And then we can have each of these as optionals potentially, but we're not doing that today. What do I think of the current iOS job market? Is all your clients from Australia? Most of them are in Australia, yeah. Different states though. And I've got a couple overseas. It's fine. The market's working out quite well for me, personally. Like, I haven't been having trouble finding clients. A lot of the job boards and the Slack groups that I'm part of, they've always got jobs being posted, and the pay just keeps climbing. Like, I don't think there's enough of us. I think, yeah, it's difficult to find iOS devs. Where do I see the future of iOS native development? I don't know. I keep thinking that maybe eventually stuff like AI will take over most tasks of apps. I think there won't be a need for a lot of them. Like, you might have one that just manages your bank stuff. You'll just say, hey, how much money is in my account? And it'll just tell you. Like, you don't need a full app with the full developed UI for stuff like that. Other apps like in games and things, that would be you wouldn't be able to replace the games. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of apps out there that you could just replace it with an assistant of some sort. But I don't think that's for probably another 10 years. I don't think AI is as good as everyone. It's not as good as everyone says. Hello. Not using observable for panel model. Yeah, not yet. So what I'm doing is I'm copying some code from this project that I worked on ages ago. But what we can do is we can go through and make these changes after I've gone through and done that. Right? We can come through and clean it up. So that's what we're going to do in a little bit. Actually, you know what? I guess we could just do it right now, right? Whoops. I mean, it's not that hard. You say observable? Yeah. Yeah, that'll do. If you had to start today, would you choose iOS again? Yes, I would. Yeah. If I had to start from scratch, I would do iOS again. And knowing what I know, right? I mean, the alternative would be for me to, I don't know, a completely different career. I'd get into sailing and restoring boats or something like that, you know, something really different. But yeah, programming is, I don't know, for someone like me who's into all that sort of stuff, it's I find the work fairly easy and it pays well. So, and I can see myself continually doing this for many years to come too. And once you get into one discipline like iOS, for example, it's much easier to switch into something else later if you have to. So if iOS isn't no longer a thing, and Android is still around, I'll probably switch. I don't know. Depends how old I am by that time. Okay. So we got started with these. This looks pretty good. We could split these out into other files, but I'm not going to bother with that right now. So we'll just keep hanging out in this view. We do have our preview here. So I guess the model is pretty much done. So if we take another look here, we can check this out, right? So we've got our panel set up, and we got the position of the panel, which is where it will be inside the window. We've got the sockets, and at the moment we're just initializing with 2. And each panel model, which we should probably call this like the window model, right? I think that makes more sense because it will have a number of panels and it has a number of cables. Now the cables are separate to each of the panels because they traverse from one panel to another. And so, well, in most cases anyway, sometimes you might connect 2 sockets on the same panel, whatever. So these need to be tracked separately. Okay. And what we've done here is we are keeping track of the start position and the end position. Each socket has a position associated with it. And I mean, that's within, the position for the sockets, I believe, we'll find out a little bit later, but I believe it's the position in the window, not on the panel itself. But we'll double check that and figure that out in a second. I'm pretty sure it's in the entire window, which makes sense because the cables would need to be able to connect. They sit on top of the panels. This is all going to make so much more sense once we actually start getting some stuff in the UI. Okay, so if you were in my situation where you like iOS but there isn't much jobs in my country, would you also choose iOS and take the risk of go the safe route? It depends on how big of a risk it is, right? The skills that you learn with iOS development, any programming in general, can be transferable to other languages and stuff. You can, like, if you've got the funds and savings to give this a go for like a month or two, and then learn as much as you can about the process and apply for all these jobs, go for it. But if you don't and you can't take that sort of risk, I would personally go with the safe route to start with, and then do iOS on the side. Before I even started iOS development, like more than 10 years ago, I had another main job, which I hated, but I did iOS development in the afternoons, evenings, weekends. I didn't go out. Wasn't socializing. I spent all my time working on iOS development, trying to learn Objective-C, because I hated my day job so much. Like that, if my day job was good, I probably wouldn't be an iOS developer now. But yeah, I disliked my living situation and my job so much that it motivated me to get out of that situation. And at the time, I didn't know how good iOS development was. I just knew that I enjoyed it. I didn't know whether it paid really well. I just knew that developers in general got paid pretty well. I didn't know if iOS was going to have any sort of future back then. But I focused a lot on getting my skills up for that. I'll message lots of people if they needed apps being built. This is back in the old days where everyone kind of wanted one, but there was like 10,000 apps on the store. Like, this was before it was that popular. Do you think I can learn iOS in 2 months? Tell an engineer, quit to change to software. Can learn full time without worrying about money. Oh, well, to get a junior role, if you were like dedicated to it, I reckon you could get enough to land a junior job. Because the benefits of doing the junior work as well is that you can also learn while you're working. I think 2 months you could do that if you're doing it like full time, teaching yourself. But everyone learns at different rates again. Just depends. Like, I learned how to do the backend Vapor development in about 2 weeks, having no backend experience. And like to this day, I'm still learning stuff about it. It's just I learned enough to build the backend that I needed at the time. So yeah, like just start off with some really basic silly apps, the kind of stuff that they get you to do with interviews. Get practice with those. So like, for example, a lot of junior roles, they'll ask you to like build an app that has like a weather app, something simple. If you can build one of those, you're pretty much ready to start applying. So after learning, would I find an iOS with just 4 companies doing iOS in the whole country? That's my only concern. How big's your country? There's got to be more. There's got to be agencies, not even just. There's got to be like every company here has an app, just about. So like my local hairdresser probably has an app. There are people who want them. The big company like Target, we have a division. I worked for Target in Australia. We had an app. Like they had an app they're working on. They're not an app company, but they had an app. We had a small team of like 6 people working on that. So I feel like you could probably find more, right? More than just the 4. If you're talking about agencies and stuff, yeah, I believe that. It's probably only a couple. Agencies are really different working environment too. They tend to be much faster paced. Okay. So if we get onto the view, biggest market share is Android and lower cross-platform. Yeah, okay. So we're talking like React Native and stuff like that, yeah. It's probably more of those sort of jobs. iOS developers can be expensive. That's probably another reason why as well. Like, there's not too many because we ask for a bit of money to do our job. Only 4 companies, yeah. I don't know. If I was in your position, I don't know what I would do. I'd probably, if it was me, I'd probably do the Java job, and then, like I said, outside of work, I would do iOS and Java backend. So I'll create apps that require my day job skills as well. So I might, set up my own server and stuff for an iOS app, like a hobby app. Put it on the store for a subscription, like $1 a month or something that's useful, and then go from there. Just keep creating apps. There's someone I follow on Twitter who just builds an app a month and then sells it. Like he'll build an app and then sell it for like 10 grand to someone else to monetize. There's heaps of different pathways for that, but that also involves knowing people. The hardest thing about that is just getting to know people. If you got meetups and stuff, I'd suggest going to one of those developer meetups and talking to people there too. They might have a better insight because they're in your country. I would go, probably would. Depends how old you are too, right? Like if you're like 20, do as many risky things as you can. But if you're like over 40 or 50, don't do that. The older I get, the less risks I take. You are absolutely correct. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Follow those two. That's some advice. They're all right. They go all right. Let's keep going. Keep asking questions. That is good. Okay, so like I said, we're starting out with a Z stack. This is where all our content is going to sit. And then we also need our model up here. So I think, what can we do? How does this work with the new system again? We don't need to prefix it with anything, do we? We just go... Is that correct? I've got to set this up. 1 second, let me have a think here. Yeah. So I should fix this error with our preview. So we're just going to initialize the window model right there. And then eventually we're going to have another one here, which will help with the drawing of everything. 28 years old and 1 full year without needing money. State. Oh, it's state, is it? Thanks. Cool. Yeah. Look, I'd probably go for it. Give yourself a time limit, right? Say if I haven't got this done within a month, plan B. Make this your plan A. Or if you can afford to do it, you can go a full year without needing money. Just give yourself a time. Go all in. If it doesn't work out, do a little bit of the other one or whatever you're doing now. Continue the same job you're doing now, potentially, and because if you really like iOS that much and you don't really want to do Java backend, just do keep working your current job, spend a month or two. I mean, you're saying you have to quit, right? To do it full time. Do it in the afternoons. I don't know. The advice is, it depends on your living situation. It really does. If it were me, I'd go for it. We're going to leave this for now, and then what we're going to do is throw in a for each. Okay, and then our data is going to be our model.cables. Okay. This will be we're going to have 2 for each loops here. Okay, so we've got a cable. Yeah, if it's easy enough for you to go back to your previous job, then yeah, if you can take like time off to do that, and they're like, hey, come back after, you're not sort of closing yourself out of that job. Yeah, that makes the decision much easier, right? If you're like, hey, I want to go away for a month or two to try something else, and they'll welcome you back, do it, because then there's almost no risk there, right? And you can do that every couple of months or every year, right? So let's say it doesn't work out the first time. When I went solo development, it didn't work out the first time for me. I just want to say I appreciate you doing these live streams. I feel like I learn a lot from watching them. Difficult to catch them live though. Oh, thank you so much for saying that. I'm glad you're here to catch me doing this live. That's awesome. Okay, so what we're going to have here is the panels. So they're all the panels that have the sockets on them. We're going to loop through and draw them on the view, and then we're drawing the cables on top. And we do these at the same step. So anytime like the view refreshes or gets like a new draw call, it'll loop through all the panels, draw them, and then it'll loop through all the cables and draw them so they're linking to the correct panels. In here, what I'm going to do with the cables is I'm just going to draw them directly here. So this will be in here. We're going to have like a path. Okay, we're just going to go between. So just to give a reminder of what this looks like, because we haven't got anything showing up in the preview here. So this is what we're building. Okay, so this is our panel. And then we can, link between the panels like that. Cool. And then we actually get access to that data structure after. So it's not just some pretty UI thing that we're building. You can, use it to actually set up associations between things. So let's move that out of the way. So we're going to end up having a path for those cables between each of the nodes. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to remove this and let's get started on creating our panel view. So it's going to be important. So we're going to actually we need a panel view. This will be a view. Let's use the auto. There we go. So we got our body there, so the auto completion. And then here we're going to have the panel, which is the this here, which is going to be associated with this view. Thanks a lot for your help. I hope you stream more, especially on Twitch. What time is right now, Australia? Because it's 11 AM here. It's going to be awesome. Do more streams like afternoons. Oh yeah, so it's like 8:30 PM where I am. I did stream during the day once, and then like one person showed up. So they were like, they said in the maybe they're here now. They said in the chat like, oh, you should probably do it at some other time because no one's online at the moment. I was like, oh, okay. Twitch, I tried doing it on both platforms, YouTube and Twitch. There's a service that lets me stream to both of them at the same time. But that was like quite expensive, I think, to have that set up. And then you had to use their streaming products that goes through like their server and stuff. I didn't quite like using it in the way it was almost felt like locked into their product. So I stopped using it and now just do YouTube. I'll have another look into doing it on Twitch as well. We need, oh, there's a dog out my window. All right, hang on. So the other stuff we need to keep track of, give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Okay, here we go. YouTube's better for discovery, honestly. Yeah, I think so too. I seem to have better luck on YouTube then. And then my videos go like directly to my channel, right? I don't have to, like, Twitch only keeps them around for like a couple of weeks. Unless you like partner or something, you can have them around for longer. I don't know how it works. But at least on YouTube, it's like, it just stays in the library forever. So anyone can come along and check it out. Okay. Where was I? Oh yeah. Okay, here we go. Have you ever considered one-on-one video mentoring for one-on-one? Yeah, I've thought about that, but I don't know, like if I was, I mean, I'll do it. Like if someone wants to do that, they can reach out to me. So I've had people reach out to me in the past with help with their code. Actually, there's one guy that I talk to every couple of months. He'll email me and be like, "Hey, I have this problem now. Can you take a look at it?" And I'll check it out for him. And we correspond back and forth. Like I've put out messages like that before on Twitter saying like, if anyone needs help off stream, I'm down for doing that. I can't dedicate a lot of time to it. You know, like if it's like a 20-minute thing to just look over someone's code, that's fine. I can do that. And generally, I won't charge for it or anything like that. Give me one sec. There's I think making sure to form content from full-length streams to funnel people into streams is kind of the meta. Yeah, I think you're right about that too. The short-form content is really time, like the reason why I do streams is because I just sit down and I start talking, right? And I start doing stuff. The amount of editing that goes into it for like a 10-minute video is like, I don't know how some people can push out videos every single day, but it takes me 6 or something hours to do like a 10-minute video. Maybe I'm just terrible at it, but it's a big time investment. When I stream for 2 hours and I'm done. I spend maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes on a thumbnail later. I should definitely charge for that. I probably would if I did like an hour long, but I don't know. The thing is, my hourly rate for regular development work is probably more than someone who is asking for advice and learning could afford, I guess. And I don't really want to. It would seem weird for me to be like, oh, just like $30 for. I mean, to charge someone who's trying to learn. Like, I don't even want to put ads on the channel. I think I'm about like 40 hours away from making the YouTube partner, and they'll let me like monetize it. I'm not going to do sponsorships. I'll probably do ads, but I'm not going to do sponsorships. There's just, I don't know, when it comes to like education, I'm getting my money from my regular work, right? I'm not here to make more of that. I'm here to teach people. Okay, so the code I've got here, I'm passing through this model into each panel. I just want to check to see if that's necessary, because I think what happens is, yeah, it is. So we're going to have to pass through this model, and the reason for that onto our panel view is because when we add like new cables between, because we're going to get reference to the socket, and it'll sort of go up the stack from the socket to the panel, and then it needs to talk to the model. So we need access to that model. You never felt the pressure to be tied to just one technology. I mean, put all your eggs in one things and you didn't learn other things like web. I mean, how do you manage that mentality? That's a good question. Not really. I hate feeling like I'm locked. You want to invest in iOS and like your advice, but I'm a little bit afraid. Well, okay. Yeah. Okay. So I haven't invested into one technology. I mean, early on when I was learning, I was obsessed with iOS, right? So that's all I did. It helped that I loved doing it, right? So my first app, I built in like 2 weeks from not knowing anything about app development to getting it onto the App Store. Well, not up to the App Store, because you still had, back then you had to sign up. It was app finished, and I think it was a couple of weeks after when I finally got onto the store, because I needed help from a friend who had a Mac. I did not own a Mac. I did it all in Flash, and back then Flash would export to could export to an iOS app. And I did it in like 2 weeks. I stayed up all night. I didn't get like any sleep because I was obsessed with it. But like since then, I've branched out into other stuff. So for example, like right now, this is like a project just for myself. Got little, I don't know if you can see this. Let me see if I can bring up OBS so I can see. So it's probably too bright. Anyway, it's a little robot like animatronic eye that I've 3D printed. I've got 2 of them. And what I want to do is put this into, so this is something I'm not even going to stream, right? This is for my own fun. I want to put it into like a doll that I just sit on the shelf, and it will have like a facial recognition camera, and it'll just follow people around the room and be really, really creepy. And I was going to use it to like gaslight people, right? So it would follow them slowly. They wouldn't know. They go like, is that doll thing alive? Like, what's it doing? And you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then maybe it'll like look away if it detects you looking at it, things like that. That was one of the little projects. So I've got all the parts printed for that. Another one is I'm building like a LED headboard for my bed. Like I brew beer. I brewed ginger beer for Christmas. Like I'm doing all sorts of things. So I'm not all like in one technology. It's just early on I was, so I could establish that, and then that allowed me to have the time to do other things. Flash and Director used to be amazing at outputting apps for different operating systems. Too bad that all went away. Yeah, that was fun times. I used to do like little silly animations in Flash too, like everyone did. That was really good tools, quick. You could have an animation together in like 10 minutes of sketching. It was really cool. Okay, so I think actually the best approach to doing this is probably to go with environment. So I think what we'll do is set this up. This is the longest stream ever, so let's set these up as environment objects. I like that idea much better. Yeah, let's do that. And we'll do it, I mean, we could just pass it through. We can just pass it through, can't we? Let's see how we go. But yeah, we do need access to the model. So let's call this the window model, and we'll just go window model there. And then we also need to know its location. This will be a privately held secret. Gosh, I hope we get to the end. Oh, it's only been about 30 minutes. We should be able to get to the end of this. Sorry to anyone who's just here for the content, who's watching it later and can't get in all the questions, conversation. What have we got? But that's what you get for not showing up to the stream. Okay, so to draw this panel, so what we're going to do is, it's like a rounded rectangle here. So let's go with VStack, HStack. I guess we don't need, what can we do here? So we can pass through, so each panel has our array of sockets, as we see down here. So we got, I mean, you will not use those side things as a skill for a job compared to web dev. Oh, probably not. Like I've got heaps of other electronics projects and stuff. But I got into that because of a client needed the work done, right? So my career has been really weird. So iOS development for the most part, and then a client was like, "Hey, we need an app built." And I started working on an app for them, and then they were like, "Oh, do you know anyone who can do like electronics and stuff?" I was like, "Well, not really, but I can take a crack at it. And then so I taught myself how to do that for that project. And I've got like, now I'm just really into the electronics stuff too now. So I'm definitely not a professional at it. It's like Lego to me, you know, plugging stuff in together. And I've got a couple of streams based on how to do like work with Bluetooth and embedded systems as an iOS developer. So you're not going to be stuck. Like, you focus on one thing, it's very, you can branch out and earn money in other ways, right? So like my iOS skills, the programming, Swift, all that sort of stuff, working with Git, working with an IDE, knowing development tools in general as well, like you only have to learn those things once and you can apply them to different systems, right? You sound stressed. I don't think you need to be stressed. I think either option is good, and like I said, just pick the one that you think you'll enjoy the most, that you have the most fun with. I moved to a different state. I used to live in Queensland, and I moved because I knew that there wasn't going to be a lot of companies around. You know, this was like 10, 12 years ago. In Brisbane, and I moved to Melbourne because that was where most of the tech companies were. So Melbourne or Sydney. Melbourne's nicer, so that's why I chose Melbourne. This will be a socket. So for each socket, we need to draw them into our panel, right? So what we're gonna do, what we're gonna put here is some text. We'll just call this a panel. So the panel name. And inside here, we will use a geometry reader. Just go geo. And then for each of these, we need to put in a socket. So this will be, I think what will be easier is if we create a new view for the socket. So we can do that. Now this will be a simple view. So what have we got here? Models here. So let's just go with a socket view. And our sockets are just a circle, okay? There's nothing special about these. We don't even need to pass through any other information. So let's just go with what I have here. We'll have our, we'll just go 4. Background will be another circle. We'll fill it with the color black. It's a socket. It'll be very dark inside. And I'll set a frame to, we'll just say, we'll set these to be 30. We'll hard code these values. Okay, so this will give us like a circle with an outline. What I'm excited most is Vision Pro, and I see myself developing Vision OS. I think it's gonna be the future. Yeah, maybe at $3,500, it's pretty expensive. I don't think it's going to be like a device that everyone's going to end up having. Hopefully Apple release a cheaper version at some point. But I can see it being used by, like, I have an app that is for music and sound effects for Dungeon Masters, for like tabletop games. And I'm working on a Vision OS version for that. I could see that being useful for like the one Dungeon Master in the group. I wouldn't expect 5 to 6 people in your friend group to own one of these things. So you have to think about the applications for that particular, like you wouldn't want to make like an MMO, right, for Vision OS, because that just wouldn't work. You would not get the number of players in your game. So it's kind of got to, you're kind of going to have to pick. It's still going to be super niche to start with. I think we're still like 5 years away from that being mainstream. I'm going to get one because I want to replace all my monitors, right? Okay, so this is all we need to do for our socket view. What I'll do is actually remove this and put it into another file. So let's just go views, create a new file here, and we'll just call it Swift file. We'll just go socket view, drop that in there. SwiftUI. So that's out of the way, right? We can probably throw these into a model as well. Get rid of that. This panel view, we're still working on it. So what we want to throw in here is this socket view. Cool. And then we'll make some changes here. So what we're going to throw in is, well, I guess we need to put a gesture on it because this is the tap area when you tap. So let's take another look at this thing. So what we've done here, we've drawn this little socket. We want it so that when you tap and drag around, you get this cable flowing from it, from the start position, the center of the socket. So what we're going to need is some gestures, okay? Of course, not this one is Apple releasing public, less pricey one, yeah. 35. Well, 3,500 is not expensive for 4 monitors, right? 4 good monitors. I could have 4 good monitors for 30, right? I can justify it. And then it's portable, kind of. Like I could sit in my car and use it. Like if I wanted to go on a road trip, I could take my 4 monitors with me. Yeah, it's one day purchase for me, day 1 purchase, but just waiting to see how the lenses for glasses will work. Yeah, I don't have that problem yet, but everyone in my family does wear glasses, so we'll see. What about Mac development? Do you think it's a good investment to develop Mac apps? So that's a tough one. Desktop apps in general, like, it depends on the app. See, most of them gone all web-based now, right? So they can release to multiple platforms, and even just running, like most apps can run in a web browser. Does it support multiple virtual monitors for Mac though, after it only mirrors the one Mac screen? That's a good question. I don't know. I would assume so. It would need some bandwidth though, wouldn't it? That's a good question. And it doesn't seem, from what we know, it doesn't like plug in. Like if you could plug it into your Mac, surely Apple would allow that to happen. There's no way that they'd create a device like that that wouldn't have multiple Windows support. It's a M2 Mac technically. Yeah, that's a good point. Like if the MacBook Pro can have multiple monitors, then surely the Vision can do the same thing. Yeah, exactly. You have to get one. Yep. Providing it can do 4 monitors though. One screen for your physical Mac and the rest will have to be on device process. I don't know. I'm thinking, look, you can only look at one at a time. So maybe Apple's done some smart stuff, right? So you got your 4 screens. You look at one screen, and it's clear. It's like 4K. It's really bright and beautiful. And then in the peripherals, these other ones are like blurry. You know, they're kind of like the low bit rate, right? And then when you turn to look at it, the bit rate increases on that one, lowers on this one, so that whatever Wi-Fi or whatever connection it's got going on, it can do that with 4 monitors, right? Yeah, Vision Pro equals laptop plus monitor plus console plus headphone. Yeah, see, it's a no-brainer. 3,500. Though I've been trying to justify it in my mind. Like 3,500, that's US dollars though, so that is quite a bit more expensive when it comes to Australian dollars. I think I need 1 or 2 more reasons to get it, other than just the monitors. I have to think about it. Other than that I'm a developer and I need one for work, right? And then I can do streams, right? I'll be one of the few developers with one of these things, hopefully, on YouTube, teaching people how to do it. It'll be a business expense. What I think is wild is all rumors point at like January, February release. I could have bet my life been dropped around WWDC. Do you mean this year? Around WWDC this year or next year? Yeah, tax write-off for sure. It does feel like January, February release, 2024, right? I haven't had a chance to see one in person. They had some in Sydney. I was going to get a flight up there to do that, but I didn't have an app prepared to test on it. If they have more sessions, which they haven't queued up more sessions, I don't think. So it feels like maybe it's close to release then if they haven't done that. 24 DCs instead early 24. Yeah. My vibe was like March or April, but they have a March event, don't they? That's for like new laptops and stuff. Is that right? So they've got June, they've got September for the iPhone, and March is like new Macs or new iPads. When they're vague, they usually push it. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. What if it ends up like AirPower and just doesn't become a thing? Sure, it's going to be a lot of waiting for non-Apple apps to support it. Yeah. So being one of the first, I mean, only 10 people are going to have them, right, to start with. But I don't know. You're going to have to come up with an app or product that will get downloaded. That's essential for Vision. You know, that's not Apple made. What's an essential? We could brainstorm something now. We could build it. Something that every single person. So remember when the iPhone first came out and you had that that app that was like the beer, and you use the accelerometer and you rotate your phone and like, you know, the beer would pour out, like drinks and stuff, and those sound effects apps. There's got to be something really simple like that we could build for Vision OS that everyone's just gonna get. I have to go. Thanks for advice. I think I'll follow what you said. Go all in iOS time. Just 20-year-old degree as a backup. Yeah. Okay. Well, don't come back. Don't come yell at me if I'm wrong. Do all Australian cities hate each other? I've seen Melbourne and Canberra get a lot of hate from other Aussies. Yeah, that everyone else is just jealous of Melbourne and Canberra. Like, no one likes Canberra, honestly. But there's like a tier system. Rip AirPower. The animation for charging was really nice. I'm sad to see it never got implemented. Yeah. I probably never would have bought one though. I think the solution they got now with the magnetic thing, like I've got this on a nightstand, in the nightstand mode, you couldn't do that with AirPower. I think what we have now is better than what that would have been anyway. It just, yeah, sucks. It was pretty cool tech. But yeah, as for like all Australian cities and stuff, we it's a light roasting to each other, especially between Melbourne and Sydney. Melbourne and Sydney are like at war with each other. Yeah. Now I am stressing. So you dated someone from Brisbane and they told you everyone hates Sydney. Yeah, I would say. Everyone hates Sydney and Sydney hates Melbourne. Yeah. Sydney's very, it's got like this really corporate vibe to it. Brisbane's like really laid back. Brisbane is like, I don't know, in Americans and stuff here, it's like Florida. It's like Queensland is like Florida. Melbourne is is super European in its styling, and there's coffee everywhere, and it's really good culture in Melbourne, I think. I'll come back and thank you because it was the best decision ever. Okay. I hope so. Okay, yeah, and also if there's anything you want me to cover, since you've set yourself these 2 months on stream or something, you let me know. If it's something you're struggling with, I'll cover it to help you out. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so what should we do first? We should probably get the... Let's set up, let's actually have something to look at, okay? So what I want to do is create something we actually have to look at. Because this isn't going to work. I'm going to switch this back to iPhone because at least we'll get the full size window. I don't have to worry about setting the frame on the window. The view will be stretched to cover it. Florida, true, because how tropical it looks, but I hope the people in Brisbane are less crazy. No, it's the same people. Oh, look, Queensland's massive though. The further out you go to this, from this, you know, we've got. I mean, it's got rednecks and stuff as well. And it's in the city, it's a little bit different to further out. Okay. Oh, okay. So what we need to do is also have the ability to add these in. So what we'll do to start with, let's jump into the window model. And what I want to do is on the initializer, because we've got to create some, right? So I think what would be awesome is if we have panels. We initialize a panel. And then what we got? Panel here. We've got our sockets set up. Yeah, so I think if we can initialize just one panel and we set this to 0, we should have something show up here in a minute. So let's just go back up here. Let's set a, what we got next? Overlay. Rounded rectangle. Oops, corner radius. And then I'll set this to say 10. And we'll just add a stroke border. And we'll just say, make it white. I want to go black, see if this will actually show up. And then for each of these panels, we've done this incorrectly. Sorry about that. We've got our panel view. This is, sorry, I've put this on the wrong, here we go. This will work. And then up here, we need to go panel view. Then we're passing through this panel, and then the window model will just be the model here. And then we have a panel. Yeah, sorry, kind of messed it up a little bit there, but we finally got there. So we have something drawing here, which is great. If I go back to the Mac version, do we get a larger screen, or is it going to be all cramped? Okay, no, this works. Okay, so far our panel is taking up the entire screen. We have 2 sockets here, which is awesome. And the way this is working is because we have this for each on our panel view. This is the panel view. And we are just drawing the sockets in there. Okay, so if we jump down here and we add some more, we should get 3 showing up. Yeah. So we'll do another one, we'll add 4. Cool, we got 4 of these. And then the idea will be that we can click and drag to create new ones, okay? Awesome. So same down here. Let's finish off this panel. So what we need to do is do like a clip shape. The reason for this is so that when we tap and drag and do some gestures and stuff like that, we're getting a good touch area. So it's pretty much the exact same. So we clip it in. And we've got these new rounded edges. You'll see what I'm talking about in a second once we position will be based on the location. So we've set 50-50. So this has pushed it off to the side a little bit, in the corner there. And the next set is we're going to add our gesture, and this will be a drag gesture. And this is so that we can drag it around the screen. And probably don't need to worry about the minimum distance or anything like that, or the coordinate space. So unchanged. So what we're going to do is gesture in. I think I want to clean up. I hate these like extra parentheses that don't need to be there. Xcode should really like default to just not having them. It's kind of annoying. So we got our new location, which is based on. Let's go with gesture state, start locations, CG point, And then we go new location dot x. The reason why we're doing this is because I haven't got like, I haven't got set up an initializer here. So what we could do is maybe initialize the start location to this location. I think what I want to do eventually though is store this somehow. So at the moment the app doesn't have like saving, like you can't save the position of the panels or anything like that, which would be important. So basically what's happening is we launched the app. Where is it? Where's the other example we had before? Yeah, every single time you launch the app, it's just like empty. So there's no like storage of any of this model information or anything like that anyway. Later on, you could implement the ability to do that, which means you would also need to save this entire model structure. So the position of these nodes at the moment is remembered by the view itself. This is something that you would probably want to put in. Oh, we do have the position here. Do I use that? That's interesting. It's been such a long time since I worked on this project. Oh, yeah, absolutely. You can save it. Yeah, cool. Okay, so we got that sorted. Don't mind me. Just keep following along. So we got the width, the new location dot y, gesture dot translation. Okay, so let's talk about this really quick, because when it comes to like when I watch other people like doing game development stuff and they're like throwing all these numbers around, like vectors and stuff like that, it gets really confusing. Okay, so what is this gesture? What's translation, right? So translation is like the amount you've moved. Okay, so it's not like the position inside the view, it's how much that drag gesture you've moved your finger, how much you move your finger. If you move it left, you get a negative value, I believe. You move it right, you get a positive value, which is why this plus equals works. Because let's say you're at 0, 0, right? 0x, 0y, and you move it to the left, the translation will be minus, say 10. And then if you add a negative to a positive or another number, it becomes a subtraction anyway. So that's how this translation stuff works. So if I move it to the left, it's going to, even though we got a plus there, it's going to add a negative number, which will reduce this to like negative 10x, right? If we're going by the example I gave before. So that's where that works. The next step is that we also need to say, keep track of this here. So we're going to pass through the new location. And then we're going to update the actual, what is it? The panel dot position. Now, I don't know why right now we have both of these. We have this one and we have this, we have both of these that we're updating, but if I need to clean this up later and move one of them, I will. At the moment, it seems a bit weird that we've got two sources of truth here, but there might be a reason for that, so I will keep an eye on it. I think what we need to do, I think we need to make some changes to this before we save it back. We'll see how we go. Hello, sir, I'm from India. I love your work. Oh, thank you. Wait, can I do a little reaction? Oh, nice. Awesome. Oh, glad to have you here. You got any questions? Just put them in chat and I'll do what I can to answer. The next step, we got unchanged. We've got our, okay, so not on here. Yeah, this is correct. So then we can go updating. So updates the provider gesture state property as well as the gesture's value changes. Goodness. So we go start location. And then in here, we've got a value. We've got, oops, value, start location, and the transaction. Okay, so let's clean this up again because this is annoying that they do this. This is much better. You're a full stack dev. Oh, cool. So what technologies do you work with in your full stack development? You do some iOS stuff as well, full stack iOS, or you web stuff? Start location. Location, cool. Let's just go with that. And then we also need to add our, what we got here? Give me 1 second, everybody. We've got, this is the body view. Yes, so we need to use coordinate spaces here, and I'll explain when we get to it why. Okay, so this is a coordinate space for the panel. Actually, I'll explain it now. So the reason for doing it this way is because we need to get access to, I guess, let's set this back to 0 and I'll show you. Come on. Can we get a refresh? Let's set this to, I don't know, 100. I want to be able to see. Okay, so yeah, the reason for having these separate coordinate spaces is because we're going to need to translate the, oh, we can click and drag because that's working now. I just finished it. That's so funny. Yeah, so yeah, there we go. Our gesture works. So the reason for having the coordinate space is because what we're going to end up doing is translating the position of the socket to a position in the world, in the window, right? So the XY coordinates of this socket is different, inside the panel is different to the XY coordinates inside the window. And in order to be able to like click and drag from one socket to another and then have these start and end positions correct, the socket's position needs to be calculated based on where it is in the window, not where it is in the panel. So like, for example, a socket on the top left corner will be like 0, 0, right? And if you drag the panel down to here, it's not in a 0, 0 position. If you assume it is and you add a cable, the cable's going to come up from the top left of the window, not from this point here. So we need to like be a little bit careful with how we do the math with this. Yeah, this is definitely one of my more complicated streams, I think, when it comes to the code. It could be a failure in the end as well. No one will probably watch it because it's like, it's a bit too much. It's not like the dribble ones. I did try and find some nice dribble designs so that we could do that tonight instead. But most of them were stuff they've already covered. Like everyone just keeps designing banking apps or movie databases or like social media sort of stuff. I think, I don't know, there wasn't really anything fresh or new on there for me to tackle. Covered most of them really. Okay, so we got to fix up our sockets. So inside our panel view, we have a little socket view here. So this needs a drag gesture and such added to it as well, except it will not move. So we need to be able to click on this and then drag without it obviously moving this entire panel as well at the same time. Hello, how are you doing? So let's add this drag gesture. And we want to say we're going to do a minimum distance of 0. And the coordinate space is panel. So it's using the same coordinate space as the panel for the gesture so we can get like that, the socket in that position. And then we say on changed. Is this the correct? Oh, whoops. Unchanged. This gets difficult. I've increased the font size, right, to try and stuff's all over the place. Okay, so here we go. So on change, we've got our gesture here, so we can add that. And then I will fix this again. And we're going to need to create another class at this point. There is a class that handles the drawing of these cables. So as you can see, if we drag this over, we create a new one of these. We go to add a new one. See how it's got like a ghostly appearance? And then once it's found another socket, it locks in to a solid color. So we need another file that we're going to, another class that's going to help with drawing these. I think TMDB with core data would be nice to assemble. What do you reckon? Oh yeah, IMDb, like the movie, like an app for viewing movie information and things like that, the actors and stuff. Is that what you're talking about? I do try and do things that are a little bit different and unique, and let other people cover those sort of projects. I don't know. I have done a movie database one, but that was just mostly UI stuff. Movie library, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I've done a UI for that. I haven't done like a model backend. I don't think the stream I did with that. I think I did. I think I hit up an API somewhere, but I can't remember whether it was. I don't think it was IMDb or something else. It's like my most viewed video on my channel. Movie database or something like that it's called. So I kind of already got like some of that work that's already done. You can go check that out if you like. At the moment, my biggest project on the channel with the streams that we got going on is an astrology app. And each session I try and pick something that's like new and unique just to that app. Like we'll do, let's create a subscription screen, or let's work with Swift data. Let's create a widget. Like, and try and complete it all within one stream. So last time we did a widget which was like a affirmations thing. I was going to show it to you, but I can't really do that. But anyway, and we use ChatGPT and things like that for generating the horoscopes. I'm going to continue on that with the next week. I think this has been a complex endeavor, this particular app. It's taken me a long time to get through. Usually I don't have this much interaction in chat. But this is really, really good. What I should do maybe in the future is create a stream where we just sit here and have a talk, and you just ask development questions. I think that'd be really awesome. That'd be fun. Okay, so on changed, we need to, so we're going to make some changes as far as like the drawing, because at the moment when we need to keep track of so there's different states basically, right? There's one where it's like potential drawing, because if I let go it disappears. So there's stuff that all that needs to be handled. We need to handle the idea of, there's a cable that's like in progress, right? And we just follow where the cursor goes or where the person's finger goes. This is what we're doing. So we need a way to keep track of that state. So in order to do that, we need to create a new file, and let's call this, let's jump down here. Let's call it down here. So this will be another observable, another class, and I'm just going to call it drawing manager. Again, this code will be available. Oh, we don't need that anymore. We don't need published anymore either. That's silly. Okay, so we go active path start, which is a CG point. We just initialize that to 0. Active path current 0 is drawing, and we'll say false. And then with the drawing manager, we can pass that through as well. I think that's good. So what we've got to do is pass it through up here. So what I'm going to do is do an @state. So this is our content view, and then I'm going to pass it through to a panel view, which is one of these things. We could clean this up and change these into environment. There's no real point in doing it because we're only passing it. Yeah, I'm not going to bother with making them. I did mention that earlier. I was thinking about turn these into environment variables, but we're only like sending them one layer in. I don't like having like these model objects being passed through this way. I prefer them to be available throughout the entire app. But in this case, since we're only going one level down, this is okay. If we end up going further, like if I have to pass this into the socket view, which is like nested again, we would probably make it an environment variable. But at this time, this is fine. Okay. We've got our drawing manager set up. So that means in here on our socket view, which is in a loop inside our panel view. So there's a drawing these in a H stack. On change, we need to make some changes. So what we can do is we can go drawing manager is drawing equals true. So this will get triggered when we start moving this gesture. Okay. Drawing manager active path start, which would be the socket position. That's where it's not where we start our tap, because if it was where we started our tap, if we started just on the edge, the cable would start drawing from the edge of the socket. We want it to be in the center, so we kind of like correct for that and we throw it to the center. So the active path start will be in the socket's center, and the active path current is the gesture location. So what we could do is probably rename this to like cursor position or something, like drawing manager then cursor position. That might be a better name for it. Is it cursor position? Cursor position. Cool. Okay. So we've updated that, and then on ended, we need to confirm those changes. So on ended, this is where like the most of the magic happens, right? This is where we go, okay, are we colliding with another socket? If we are, then we're going to draw a path from one socket to the next. If we're not, we're just going to reset the drawing manager and remove everything from the view. So what we can do here is on ended, we've got the gesture here. And then we go let gesture rect, and we need the rectangle for it so we can like detect collisions and stuff, right? So this is going to be based on we've got X and Y locations, so we're going to go gesture location X. And we do have some hard-coded values in here because what we want to do, we know we've hard-coded the size of the sockets to socket view here to 30. So we want to get the center of them, okay? So this will be the same thing, minus 15. So, 30 divided by 2 is 15. Ideally, we wouldn't have these hard-coded values like this. We would probably want to give developers, like if we made this into a library, right? We want to give developers the ability to change the size of the sockets. But at the moment, we're not doing that. We don't care about that. And then we'll hard code these to 30 and 30. Okay, so that's our rectangle for that gesture rectangle. So for end socket, we go in model.panels. Okay, so here's going to be a little bit of a tricky thing. So what we want to do is we want to search all the panels that are in the model. So anything that's in, here we go. We want to search through each of these, okay? And then search their sockets and see if so let's say we want to search them all and find out which socket my cursor is hovering over when the gesture ends. When I lift up the button, we want to find which socket that I've done that on. And if there isn't one, we just get rid of the cable. Otherwise, we create that new linkage. Okay, so for every single end socket, we just named it end socket. And model.panels, what we'll do is we'll do a flat map here. this will give us like an array, like a full array of just all the sockets. Here, so this will be our array. What have we got? What have I done wrong? Window model. Okay, panels, flat map, sockets. Excellent. Yeah, so what we've done, the reason why we've done this flat map is so that we've grouped them all the sockets together. We don't care about the panels anymore. We just want the sockets and their locations. And then so what we'll do here is if gesture rect contains nSocket.position. So this is all we need to do to detect a collision. Okay. If the rectangle from where we have our cursor contains a position of an end socket, any of these, okay, we create a new cable for that. So we can go window model, cables, append, right? This is getting super easy now. Cable, start socket is socket, which is this here, okay? And the end socket is obviously end socket. That's it, okay? We're done. And then once we've done this, if we found the correct one, there's no point looping over all the rest of them. So we'll just, we can just break out of that. And then before we exit completely, we can say drawing manager is drawing equals false. So that way we stop drawing the cable. Okay, the ghostly cable just disappears. And the reason why we have this outside instead of in here is because in some cases, yeah, we want the cable to disappear if it does not find anything. It might loop through all this and not find anything. That's it. So that's pretty cool. And then what we got to do now is on the geometry reader, we're going to do some extra stuff here. So let's go with on change of reader frame in. This is the coordinate space thing again, right? So here we're going to go panel. And then what we want to do is origin there. Have I got this right? It's not reader, it's geo. So geo frame in panel origin. And then what we're going to do here is remove this value in socket dot position equals CG point X. We've got new value dot X plus 15, and then we've got new value dot Y plus 15. Then we go window model cables equals. So this forces an update. Basically all we're doing here is a forcing update. What have we got? Yeah, I think that's correct. We got to put those parentheses there. What else have we done here? I use on change with a 2 or 0 parameter action. Oh, let's just ignore that. And then inside on appear we go socket dot position equals CG point. We've got geo frame in, again, coordinate space. This will be named panel. And then we go mid X, and then the Y value is going to be the same too. Let's go geo frame in named, lots of coordinate space stuff here, panel. If we get these wrong, it'll break. So we go mid Y, and there we go. So we set the when the socket appears, we readjust its location. So that's cool. I think I guess what we should do now is add. Yeah, let's do that. So we've got one. Set the size for the geometry reader here. And now we have a panel that is smaller. Okay. So what we've got here is we've set a frame for the geo reader. So the geometry reader is going to like fill up space unless we tell it not to. And the way we've done that is we've just set each of these geometry readers that are around each of these sockets. We've set those to 30, which will clamp down on the size of the socket view, and these are a size of 30 as well. Okay, so that's the way that works. I'm happy with this. If I say we might make this 200 by 200, that should throw this back, yeah, somewhere closer. There we go. Okay, we can also remove some of the padding here, and that'll like bunch them up. I think that padding was okay. Maybe we can reduce a little bit. We could do this another way. Put some padding around them like that, a little bit more cramped, and then we can say spacing here, and we just say like 10 between them or something. 20. That's cool. I like that. Okay. All right. So at the moment, we haven't got any drawing for these cables yet, but believe me, in the background, I think it is happening. So we need to get into that next. All right. So we've got we're pretty much done with everything there. So what we've got to do now is work out our drawing path. So we've got all our other views completed. That's awesome. All right. So obviously the next step is to fill in this for each of these cables. After learn Node.js, we switch Nest.js. It's good choice. Ah, okay. I know Node.js. I don't know Nest.js. I don't think I've heard about that. But I don't do web stuff. So is that new? Okay, so the panel view. We've got the panel view set up, which is this with all the sockets on it. Now we need to draw the cables. Okay, and this is where the paths come in to play. Okay, so each path, so each of these cables are just a simple path, and we can stylize it. Okay, so we've got path move to cable dot start socket. So move to, it will be set the first position. Okay. Then we say path. Now we can say add line, but they'll make the cables like give them a straight line. What we want to do is add a curve. Okay. So we're going to say cable end socket position. So this is the from one position to another. And we've set some controls in there so we can give it a bit of a curve. Now the controls are a little bit kind of like weird, but you don't really need to know too much about it. What we need to do is make sure that they kind of sag down a bit. I remember when I was first building this, I had issues with like dragging this around, and then if the panel was on the left, the cables were pointing up, and the panel was on the right, that pointing down. It was one of those that like they would flip. Until we got the curve stuff correct. The coordinator spaces identifiers could be declared as static constants to reduce the chance of an error. Yes, absolutely. So we could throw this. What is this again? Coordinate. Such a long. I'm trying to keep it small. So what we could do is we could have it like this, panel, but even better it would be if we had this as a coordinate space, and then we'll like, right, and then we can just go like that. Yeah, Is that going to work? Static property is going to be cloud type, remove static. Oh, we just go, we doesn't even need, we just set up a let, right? That'll be fine. Okay, let's do it that way. Let's just replace these. The entire named thing. I think that'll be shorter and better. It's about the same size. Oh no, we're stuck down here now. Damn. Okay. Private enum inside the view would be even better. I might be using this outside that though. I hear you. Yeah. Yeah. You see, it kind of works up to a point. Now I need to... I can't do it here. Let's just leave it like that. I think I've got most of them. We just got one that's sort of an outlier. Yeah. What I could do is create another a modifier that takes in the coordinate space name. Can I do it? Name coordinate space. No, it's a type alias, right? For string, it's going to expect a string in there. That's fine. Whatever. Okay, so for these control points here, so what we need to do, this is a weird one. Extension on string is also an option. Yeah, true. We could do that. Yeah, we could do that too, couldn't we? But that's getting like, yeah. That's when we come back in like a month's time after we've had this in production for a while, and then we're like, oh, what improvements can we make to the code, and use the dot syntax. Yeah, that's one of the best things actually about like SwiftUI and just Swift in general is like how easy it is to extend stuff and add new functionality to code that already exists. Even Apple's own code, like it's not off limits. Okay, so cable. So what we're going to do is we're going to have control nodes on the cable. So the cable's going to sag like this. If you've ever used any vector drawing software before, you know that if you want to do like a curve, you have to have these little handles that you can pull up and down to kind of change how extreme the curve is. Yeah, nitpicking. Yeah. But it's good. It's good. It's educational. So I'm glad you brought that up. Sometimes I try and do it while I'm working. So like what I'll do is like I'll do something that's absolutely incorrect, and I'll be like, okay, so don't do this, everybody, because of X, Y, Z. So that's one of the things. Yeah, you definitely want to like reduce anywhere you've got strings. It's the same as when I was talking about these hard coded values. We probably want to pass those through. You want to, if you're, like I said, you're making this as a library for another developer, you want them to be able to change the size of these sockets. Even customize like the styling of them as well. Because at the moment we've just got, if you look over here, this would be kind of cool thing to do in the future. At the moment, the socket view is just this. It's just a view. But like, there's no information coming through. It doesn't need to know anything. It's just getting drawn. So what you could really do is allow a future developer to like pass through any view to be the socket view. They can you can make it square if they wanted to. Let's just freaking do that, right? You just change that to rectangle. Oh, we can't do this. Hang on. What have we got? Where are we? It's gonna be awful. Yeah, the square now. Well, kind of. So, I mean, that looks terrible. Let's make the line width smaller there. Okay, so let's keep going with this. So we got the control point 1. And we need to apply, so the control point's going to start at the position of the first socket, but it can't be there. We need to move it in order to get that curve. So we need to translate where that point is. So what we'll do is we'll apply a translation. So this is a CG affine transform. What's the transform? And we'll translate the X value. So at the moment, in order to get the curve, we don't really need to like say where on the X plane this new position is going to be. We only want to move the Y position of it. So we're just going to move it down. And that will be 40 or up. It would be down. I think that's down. I think that's how the XY coordinate system works. And then we just do the same thing here for the end socket. So we just go cable, end socket, position, applying CG transform, translation, and this will be a 0 and 40 as well. We're making them exactly the same, so the curve is a gradual. What I'll do is I'll change these values in a second, and you'll see how it affects what the cables look like. Okay, so I think that's it for that, and then we just need to actually draw the path itself. So you're not going to see anything until you like stroke the path. And what we'll go with is, oh, we got here, align with. I've got some values here that I think looked quite okay. So we go around, which is nice. If you wanted to stylize this further, like have it look like an actual cable, there's probably a bit more work you would need to do. I would still do it as like a vector drawing if possible, so that it stretches and moves correctly. So like what we could do is like draw paths on top of each other. So we would have one that's like a black cable, and then we can do another path, blur it, and like white and blur it, so it's like a shine on a black cable. You know what I mean? So it's got like oh, I haven't got anything that's going to be able to show up on camera for you. But you know, there's like a highlight on like your cables and stuff. You could do that. We might even give that a go. I'll see how we are for time. What are we doing? We should be fine for that. Okay, so we got dash is 5, and then we got the dash phase. We'll set this to, I don't know, 10. Okay. And then I guess at this point we can add a toolbar. Noisy keyboard. I'm going to add this button in here. So what I want to do is window model. It's just model there. All right, model panels, append panel. We'll just add a new panel. And we see we got this new button at the top right. So if I click that, we should get a new panel, and it shows up underneath that one. So if I hit this again, we can just keep adding these new panels. How cool is that? Pretty awesome. And then this needs its own coordinate space again as well. It's annoying every single time we do change, the panels disappear. So we've got the name, which will be, this one's going to be called the campus. So we need to make sure this is different. And then I think we're pretty much there. I just need to find what we're doing here. Okay, so let's do a quick little. So you won't see this happening. It's pretty small actually. I should make this a bit larger. And then it looks like we've also got an issue here where that's something to fix later. That's a bug. So basically what happens now is if you look at the original version of this, you click and drag, you can see there's like that ghost cable there. Here we don't have that yet. So if I click and drag, we do not have the ghostly cable. So it's just I have clicked and dragged. The mouse cursor is just has nothing attached to it. If I release it over one of these sockets, oops, yeah, release it over a socket, you can see that it will draw that cable there. So what we need to do now is handle when a drawing is in progress. Okay, and this is like the last step, and then we're pretty much done, and then we can mess around with these values. Okay, so what we'll do for starters is we will create let's create a new item here, which is the drawing path or in progress path. We'll just say drawing path. And this will have the drawing manager pass through. We'll just pass through that drawing manager. So what I want to do down here is create a new view. Drawing path. And then we will pass through our drawing manager. Oh, this will be called the manager. Okay, so this should go away. Disappear, thank you. All right, now we can start working on this. Okay, so this will be a Z stack. It could be anything, it doesn't matter. Z stack's fine. So here we'll go to the manager is drawing. So this view is going to be empty if it's not drawing. And this view sits on top of here. I guess essentially what we could have done is, well, it doesn't really need to be in there. We could just do this. Actually, this might make it a bit more clear for everyone watching, so we can drop this out. We don't need to do that, worry about that. So if the drawing manager is drawing, yeah, keep it all together like this. We draw a new path, okay? So at the moment here, this path only covers cables that are like established, that have a start and end point, like a start socket and end socket. When you are drawing is in progress, you don't have a start and end socket. You have a start socket and you have the end position, which is wherever the cursor is. So we need to draw like, it's basically the same as this. It's going to be the same as this code. Okay, so whoops, drawing manager, active path start. So remember we set this when we click on, when we start our gesture here, see drawing manager is true, and we say active path start is the socket. So this is a for loop which draws the sockets for us, and we have a gesture on every single socket, and anytime it's detected, gesture is detected on one of these, and we've like moved slightly, just slightly, because we got a 0 minimum distance. We say, okay, it's changed. We get the path start, which is the center of that socket. Okay, so that's what we're using up here. So this is where our start position is going to be for our path. And then what we need to do now is go path.addCurve again. So what I'm going to do is just grab this and copy that and paste that down into here. And then here we just go drawing manager. Cursor position. Cursor position, we can move that. The control one will be this one here. Just mind me with this. Okay, so that's it. All right, so what we can do is we can run this. Now we don't have a stroke for this yet, so it's probably not going to show us anything. We see there's our path. Okay, so if we create a new panel, we can actually, you can see that we got that path, and there's that curve in it as well. So all it is just being filled in at the moment with like whatever the default is for a path drawing. So we need to actually add the stroke again. So we can do that here like this. And what we're going to do is set the, we're going to stroke the stroked path with a color. And then we can rerun this and we should get our ghostly outline. You see that? How cool is that? So we can link to another one, and then we've got our panels there. We can add a new panel. We can say, let's go from here to here. And then when we move this panel around, we've got these cables attached. So something I wanted to try out, right, was to change these values. So if we say 2, let's say 2, and then skip one at 40. We connect them. You can see how there's it's a little bit weird here. So we've got a hook here, and then this is basically straight. So we can exaggerate this further. So we can say 100 and 100 on the curve. And that makes them like sag a lot more, right? So if we were to say 1,000, for instance, and that makes the cable like really sag. They go off screen. What would be really, really awesome is if we can get them animated and wobbly. But I think, you know, that's pretty much it. Like, we're kind of pretty much done with the project now. And what's interesting to me is like, this is all done in SwiftUI. Like, how cool that SwiftUI is capable of doing this kind of thing, these sort of complex views. Would I do this in a regular project of mine? I remember when I built this quite a while ago, I did it as a challenge for myself to see, and a challenge to SwiftUI. If someone called for this in an app, like, I don't think it's good UI unless it was a Mac app and you're building something to do with audio, right? And you want to route different things. It's the same as like the node system that you've got in, I think, Unity for doing like shaders and stuff. I think a lot of UIs in desktop apps, well, not, I wouldn't say a lot of them. I would say like this is becoming a more popular thing. Same as like, I think Blender has something similar as well. It's just because it's like easier to reason about, and you can say, I want the output of this component to go into the input of this other component. So these could be set vertically. Each panel can have different number of sockets as well. So maybe you want to create an educational game that has logic gates. Like, that would be kind of cool. So maybe if we were to, so let's do this really quick. If I jump into, so if we do like a logic gate thing, right? Real quick. Instead of H stack, we say V stack. Okay, so we've got this panel here. Instead of, I mean, we got 2, right? And then we could say, I mean, with each panel, you would need an input and an output, right? So essentially what we could do, we could have input sockets, and then we can have an array of output sockets, right? So that what you could do is you could have 2 V stacks. You have inputs on the left, outputs on the right. Maybe each, depending on the type of logic gate you're trying to build, you'd have 1 input, 2 outputs, or 2 inputs, 1 output. So, I mean, that would be kind of cool. I could, yeah, this sounds kind of fun, actually. Maybe I'll extend this into something like that. Just like a Mac app that you can just play around and create logic gates and stuff with it. Build a computer. And then at the end of it, you've got this, the raw model objects left, right? So you can actually, it's completely separate from the UI. Okay, so what you could essentially do is take this model and do all your math and stuff, follow all the paths, and iterate over all the panels, all the cables, and then have an output at the end, which is kind of cool. What's something else we could do with this? Maybe there's something we can play around with now. Not really. I was thinking we could have a node on the, like a socket on the left. You could set, or maybe each of these could be different colors, and it's like a color mixing thing. You can add the new panel, and it's like RGB, how much of, you know, red, how much of, you could like combine and mix colors. I don't know. Let's fix this up here. I don't know. What does everyone think of this? Let me know in the comments if you think this was useful or not. I know it was a little bit complex in some parts, and it was kind of like just copy and code mostly. I tried to explain what was there as we went along, like how it all worked and stuff like that. I think picking apart this video for little nuggets of wisdom and stuff will be a little bit difficult due to how long the stream has been, but I hope it's been fun throughout this process. The code will be available. I'll actually link it in the description and anyone can download it. Generally, I put my code on Patreon, but you can just steal this and do what you want to do with it. It will be the one that I built. No, I'll upload this version of it. So let's just go back and change this back to a HStack. Yeah, cool. And that, I mean, that's pretty much it. You can make ternary logic gates. Yeah, that's off the top of my head. I can't really think of how I could do that really quick. You know, as an example right now, I think I'm going to need a little bit more time for that. But yeah, that could be a step from ordinary logic gates. Yeah, definitely a couple of applications for this, and I can see it being useful in definitely in a mobile app like iOS. If you have your phone horizontal, right, and maybe we have like a canvas that can sit on where you can scroll around the canvas. Maybe it's like a blueprint, like a grid system or something like that. That could be really, really fun and educational, right? So you could have like multiple levels. So level 1 is just having an input to an output, like a straight 1-to-1, right? And then another one will be like, okay, let's do an inversion or something. And you can drop in like up here, instead of a new panel, it'll be like a drop down box, and then you get new ones added each time. So the first one will be like, I don't know. Was it the first gate with like an AND gate or something like that? Or a combined pipeline visualizer. Combined pipeline visualizer. What do you mean by that? So the other thing too, if we're doing like vertical panels and stuff like that, these are horizontal again, I'm going to fix it. But what we could do is you could make these straight lines. So that works too. If you remove the curves. So it's just a little bit more clearer. I mean, and it's just as easy just switching from HStack to VStack too. So you could add that as an option in the game too, if people wanted to play around with it vertical in their phone. Simple inputs like letters, numbers, colors, shapes. Yeah. And then you have some sort of output at the end. Yeah, that'd be really, really cool. Yeah, so like with the synthesizer, right? You patch through, you go through different ways to modulate the sound, different filters, things like that. So you could essentially you could use this to create some sort of synth as well if you wanted to start out with some sort of a you know, the starting point would be just a square wave or something, and then by the end of it you have you've added all these different sounds. I don't know, I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's a fairly interesting project to do on SwiftUI. But again, like reiterating on what I'm talking about when I was like, would I add this to an actual project? It would need to be a specific use case. You wouldn't just throw it into any other app. And it's kind of complex, right? Like for what it is, I mean, it's not a whole lot of code. It took us 2 hours to put together essentially, so it's not massive, but the ability to reason about it and stuff it would get quite complex over time. So maybe there's better ways to do this. Maybe there's different technologies. Maybe so sometimes if I wanted to do stuff with collision checking in SwiftUI, I will not do that by hand. I will just create a use a sprite kit view, right? And then just use the game libraries to do collisions and gravity and things like that. It is possible to have gravity and collisions and things bouncing around in SwiftUI. I have done that before. I have another video where I've done that with like a rope, a dangly rope that's all stretchy. But SwiftUI the right tool? Probably not. But it seems to work fine for stuff like this, and I just don't see anyone doing anything like this in their apps using SwiftUI. It's always like tables and sometimes graphs. Graphs are probably the most closest thing to this. Yeah. Have you tried using the Canvas API? So the Canvas API, that's the one with you can use the Apple Pencil and stuff, right? I have. Actually, while we're here, let's have a look at another project I've been working on. I'll see if I can find it. It's not here. Is it here? No. Okay, so I might have to jump on. Give me 1 second. Because I think you might find it interesting. No. Okay. Okay. What's the Canvas API then? Hang on. Maybe I do know what that is. Yeah, drawing 2D graphics inside a SwiftUI view, graphics context. Just reading about it now. Symbols and stuff. Oh, okay. If you're looking for a quick challenge, you could make the sockets array editable and reorderable in UI. That would be that's a good challenge. I mean, there's no reason why they need to be an array right now. We could just use the set, I suppose. Yeah, so once you start getting to weird stuff like using inputs and outputs, they need to be labeled, right? You couldn't just have just the generic socket. It would need to be, you need to have, yeah. Okay, give me 1 sec. Before we get off, I just want to show you something, if I can find it. Yeah, this one's not public. Let's open up this new project. Because I was pretty excited about this actually. Yeah, see, I had to drag in some libraries for this, some geometry stuff. All right, let's have a quick look. We can do this on the Mac, I believe. It should work on the Mac. Okay. No, so let's just do an iPad here. So this is a project that's been going on for, oh, I don't want to look at the dates. Let's see, what do we got? 2021. Look at that, end of the year 2 when I was on break. I was like, oh, I'm on break now from work. I'm gonna work on this new app. Never got finished. It was complex. So you mentioned the canvas and drawing and stuff, and I kind of thought this might be interesting to show you guys. So you might be into it. Who knows? Okay, so what I wanted to do, I've been working on a like Dungeons and Dragons maps and stuff like that, right? So like, I wanted a way to like create them much faster while you like during a session. You know, the players do something that you don't expect, and you want and you need like a quick map to draw. If you don't have the art skills and all that sort of stuff, it doesn't matter. So what we got here is like our canvas. So what I wanted to do was say, was this tree? What is this one again? Mountains. So you can draw like a squiggly line, and then it gives you like, it converts it to like mountains, I guess. This is actually after I've been messing around with it. I think this is incorrect. This is bad example. So what I had it so you can draw a squiggly line, and then based off the squiggly line, it will go pick some random points along it and then draw more lines of it. So it was like the top-down view of like mountains, okay? Just like a jagged line and then jagged lines off it, like a big crack. That's what we did. I did have eventually at the start. Now I've done something wrong here. I think I was trying to get shadows and stuff in there. Anyway, the other thing is you can draw like a circle for a forest, and then it squiggles it. So you can go like this. So you got some quick, you know, it gives you some lines there. The one that I'm most proud of here is like the ability to, is this maybe on GitHub? Yeah, this is on GitHub, but I've marked it private. If you do this, you can go dots, right? And then these are buildings, like these are roofs. It'll draw the structure of the roof. So like if you go like this, there you go. It draws like the roof of a building. Yeah. See the mountains here. This was something I was trying to play around with. I really wanted to. I wasn't happy with how it looked. I wanted to add shadows and things like that, and that's why this is all messed up the way it is. And then I had this other thing where you can draw. You probably can't see that; it's a bit faint. You can add shadowing or highlights. What else have we got? Paths. I was going to add paths. What's this thing? Can't remember what that was. I think it was a river. These are just regular icons. So, but yeah, the mountains were supposed to be way better than this. And then if I deselect, you should be able to use 2 fingers to zoom out and move around. So my goal was so that it would be almost infinite. So you can see how, so you can get really detailed maps. Yeah, that's what I wanted to be able to do. Stable diffusion in painting vibes using, yeah, the shaders would be cool for that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was thinking like vectors and just using values and stuff, so that way I could make really big maps. But I wanted the auto drawing. The biggest thing that I wanted out of this was auto drawing, because there's like, you know, there's heaps of drawing apps, but no one had this automatic drawing of like you draw a line and then you get mountains. You draw, and then some of the other drawing tools were like stamps. So you could put mountains in, but they were like, you know, you have an array of like 10 different mountain shapes, and then as you click, it just randomly picks one, and you can. Those ones are really cool too, like this, like a stamp tool. But I found those to be rather limiting as well. Like I wanted a really big canvas, and I'll tell you why I wanted a really big canvas, because I wanted, this is a very, I've added a link. I'll show you. This was very ambitious of me. So this is like the D&D world map. I found a couple of them, and then I traced them and drew all this on there in those other apps, the other apps. But they're only so big, right? I think the maximum is like a 4K size map, but this needs to be huge. And I wanted to like crowdsource this as well. I wanted to create the idea was so I can create a tool that that would integrate with this website in such a way that everyone can go in and add their details, and then they can do an upload, and then I can just put it straight in. But I couldn't get I don't even know how Google Maps works. Like they take lots of photos, right? And they must have some software that stitches it together. They must have some software that knows where all the roads or each coordinate point of every single road. That's a lot of data. But then how do they and I was like, how do I do map edges? Because if everyone was drawing a little square, how do you line them up with different drawing art styles and stuff? I thought it'd be really cool to get crowdsourced, and everyone's got their own art style. You might have you might zoom in and the panels update, and it's like comic book or something in one area. Really cool. That was my vision, right? This is one of those projects that just ended up going nowhere. So what I've done to really showcase this though is that, so I've added some different towns and stuff. You can click on them and a little panel opens up on the side giving you information about that place. This is API driven. This is from, I can't remember. I didn't put credits in there for it. I need to do that. Anyway, so you go to Waterdeep, you can scroll in. You can scroll in, and then you've got the city. How cool, right? So could you imagine, I don't know how many people here actually play Dungeons & Dragons or anything like that, but the ability to have the entire world here, and your players are adventuring, they're hanging out in, I don't know, this forest or something. Maybe you start your adventure in the forest and you're like, okay, cool. They're in this forest. I'm just gonna screenshot and I'm done. That's part of it. And then the players are like, oh, I really would need to go down into Waterdeep. And you're like, I don't have a map prepared. But you just open up this website and you just go, okay, I'll grab a map. You just zoom in and you're like, all right, you're on this street, screenshot, you're standing here. That would have been awesome. Google Maps for D&D, exactly. And then all the other mapping software I found that lets you create your own maps, all based on the world, which is just annoying because I don't want Earth, right? They're like, oh, you can style the Earth maps, you can change these values, you can change these colors, because it's all vector art and stuff. And I'm like, I wanted a D&D world that I could just zoom in anywhere and just find interesting little areas. And of course, the lore for it isn't complete too. So having it crowdsourced, people can you can pop down a little house at the bottom of this building, of this mountain, if you really wanted to, and it wouldn't matter because that's canon now for us or whatever. You know, like you get everyone to decide what it could be. It did get me wondering now though, is there one for Middle Earth? Turn-by-turn navigation, street view would be great. Yeah, well, I don't know if we could do street view. That'd be pretty good. Okay, so what's this? This is a Lord of the Rings thing. This looks like it's got navigation on it too. Wow. Oh, that's as far as we can zoom in. You see what I'm going. You see what I'm going for here, right? Oh, it would have been really, really cool. But yeah, the fact that you can just zoom straight into this city, and yeah, just, oh no, you're having a fight here. You put your little player characters on there. Like, wow, can't wait to play Baldur's Gate 3. I have to finish. There's a little. I had to finish Hades before it. Oh, okay. Yeah, I finished it the other week. Baldur's Gate 3. It was awesome. Really, really fun. I wish I could stop recording and just keep the stream going so we can chat. Sorry everyone who's got to be watching this later. But yeah, to like do these points, so the streets and stuff, you actually have to set a start position and an end position, and you need to do it for every single label. So you know how sometimes on Google Maps and that you'll see like a road will have like the name multiple times. That's because they've gone start position, end position, start end for the multiple names. So I've had to do that here. So these are two separate tags. Along this street here, there's two separate tags there. It doesn't just add them. Whatever software I'm using, obviously, maybe there's a better way of doing it, but yeah, it's unfortunate that this is as far as I got with this project. Baldur's Gate 3, yeah, so a game that I got obsessed with just recently was Death Must Die. I don't know if you've played, it's like $10 on Steam. I saw some other streamer playing, and I was like, oh, that looks like my kind of game. You know, the one where you just hack and slash monsters and then you repeat over and over and over again, getting slightly stronger each time your character dies. Those games are super addictive. It's like cookie clicker. But I managed to finish it a couple of times, so I'm glad. Like it's lost its hold on me now. But I might play that a little bit again once I get off stream. I don't know. It came with another game. Anyway, this is going on for too long. But yeah, this was kind of my little side project I didn't tell anyone about, and I was kind of really happy and proud about. I've got one city done almost. But yeah, the world's massive, and yeah, it would have been really, really cool to. I'd build it because I wanted it to exist. Honestly, I want someone else to do it. I don't want to do it. I just want it to exist. But yeah, I don't have the tools. I couldn't find any cartography software that makes this, see the grid looks a little bit different. That makes like the joining of these tiles easier. Anyway, so ideally I wanted to be able to draw the whole thing, zoom in, and then export it as one large image. And the way this works is that each tile, the folder structure is like, you've got the top folder, which has the entire map and in low res. And then inside that, you've got two folders, which would have, 2 by 2. So you've got a couple of grids here. And then the further you go in, it ends up being something like hundreds of gigabytes of data by the end of it. Because these aren't vectors, right? These are all drawn. So these are raster images. Vectors would be even better, but this particular software that I'm using for this could only use like JPEGs. Anyway, that's my story of a failed project. Have we got any others? We've got heaps of these things. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, I got like 150 repositories on my GitHub. Yeah. It's probably not as many as some though. Anyway, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. It's been like 2 hours. It's been really fun though. I really love interacting with all of you today. This is why I prefer streaming over doing those short videos. It's because I actually get to talk to people, and you guys can ask me questions and I can help you out even easier. It's just like a webinar thing where you need help with anything, I'm here to answer. Okay, thanks. Amazing project. Thank you. Yeah, just I guess there's just not that many people that are into it either. You know, it's a small. There's probably only a few thousand Dungeons and Dragons players, right, in the world. So, I mean, I have this habit of picking niche projects and working on them and getting like 100 downloads on my apps or something because it's like this really specific need that I'm trying to fulfill. Hopefully this astrology project, when that's done, it'll have a much wider audience. We'll see how we go. But yeah, thank you. Yeah, see you everybody. Thanks for joining me. I'll be back on next week. So, was this nodes and cables thing one time only, or are you going to work on it further on later streams? It's a one time only thing, I think. I don't know. I do like some of the ideas we've thrown out. I might mess around with the ideas off stream for a bit. If I come up with something, I'll start up another one. You know, like if I'll play around with the code. If I can get like a logic gate thing happening, I'll do a stream on implementing it fully. But otherwise, this might be it. I think we'll get back onto the astrology app next time, and then I'll try and find some more dribble designs. If anyone finds any designs or stuff they want me to replicate, send them through as well. Like my contact details are pretty much every video. It would be. Try not to find things I've already done. Just weird stuff would be kind of cool. The weirdest thing, find me some weird apps that have weird UIs. I'll try and redo it in SwiftUI. Could be fun. Yeah, anyway, thank you. It's hard to say goodbye. See you guys.